Welcome everyone to our patchly cycle of Genshin Impact GITCG Podcast, where we discuss about the previous patches meta and the tournament results and how this patch, the next patch, is going to be shaping up to be. My name is EggsD and I am the very kind host here. Pretty much not going to speaking as much as the other four that is in the room with us that knows this game far better than I do. And I'm going to introduce them one by one, and if I call out your name, please just say something interesting about yourselves. If you have nothing interesting to say, I guess cry a little and then just say your name. Alright, we're going to start with, from my VC order, we're going to have Juslin.
Alright, hi, I'm Juslin. I'm a stall specialist, and I wrote the GITCG 3.7 timer guide, as well as the clean mana and chicken quicken guides. Yeah, so
Nice.
happy to be here today to talk about the new changes.
All wonderful. And right below Juslin is Matt Mario.
Hi, I'm Matt Mario. I'm also part of the TC staff in this community, helping make a lot of interactions with how many new stuff was added in 3.7.
Wonderful. Next up we have Sumi.
Hello everyone, I'm Sumi. I'm the odd one out here. I'm actually part of the production team at GITCG. You'll hear my voice sometimes in the voiceover. I also do a little bit of script writing. So my main job is as a caster, but I have occasionally been playing in tournaments. And if you check on the Kaching Mending website, you might see my guide for Pyro Kaching. We'll probably need updates at some point.
Before we get to Ting, real quick, thank you, Kurtica Zen, for raiding with a party of 27. You are a godsend, but you are just in time for the GITCG podcast for 3.7. Anyways, and the last guest down on the list, last guest in the list is Ting.
Hi, I'm Ting, and I'm part of the theory crafting staff in the GITCG, and I'm a Majors player as well. Glad to be here.
All right, thank you. We do have like the generic topics that we can discuss today on the thing. I'm not sure if I should just like have my screen just sitting down on a table or if I should be playing some games, but I will be your mediator, so just so no one talks over each other or like doing some random stuff, I'll be making sure that like everyone gets a chance to talk. So don't worry, I got your backs, all four of you guys. Just don't fight, I guess. That's probably the thing. We're gonna go in the order of these topics. Number one will be how has 3.6 been for us, and generally just mostly talking about like the because we had our very first time we banned a deck, and underwent a little bit of a different structure for the major. We're gonna talk about that one. And the second topic, actually the second and third topics usually have different things, but like I think because of how big 3.7, I'm just gonna unify that to the how the patch notes for 3.7 has been like, and also how has the new characters and cards have been like. I think that's gonna be a giant chunk of the discussion here today. So I think I'm gonna try to keep the 3.6 topic a little bit like it'll like keep it really short, because again, new cards, new meta. I don't know if MMEC is kind of the thing here now, but like I think we should start off with that. So MMEC, it was a very big stagnant meta, and like not even before 3.6, and we finally got to the bans to ban the MMEC with a new structured tournament. How do you guys respond to that? Were you guys okay with those bans? Because I know some of you here also just enjoyed your fair share of MMEC.
I think that the ban was the right decision. Like, it's not really healthy for like 50% of the decks to be all the same thing. Like, I feel like it's not really fun for a lot of players when they can't really innovate and make their new deck, because it just loses the MMEC, right? So I think the ban was very much justified.
Okay.
Yeah, like MMEC was the most dominant deck of the patch. There was nothing even close to competing with its power. And I think some of our tournament staff compiled some results. We found that 60-70% of the top tournament results was MMEC, so it was for sure just way ahead of everything else, and it definitely deserved the ban.
Well, go ahead, Ting.
With the MMC nerf, a lot of decks that were previously pushed down by MMC started to get more rise in popularity, like Hydra Ito, Geoshinid, or like Oceanid, Xiangling, Ayato. And that was much better for the meta than like MMC everywhere.
All right. Matt, Mario, anything to say regarding the MMEC ban, or did you just never used one?
Well, I was an MMEC player before, and I think the ban was really good for a lot of reasons people shared. But a big thing you could see of like how the results were really good for the meta was in the majors. There was a lot more diversity in what we saw, with considering there was a lot of Geo, Shenhe, Pyrokiching, and some Gon USC, and like there was a lot more like balance in what you were supposed to expect. When the last patch majors, there was only MMEC for all the major like winners except for one, and there was like a dominance in how much like people brought MMEC and then like a Xingqiu counter, and then it's like, okay, you can't really counter the MMEC, so you just like either like try to get better at the mirror or just take it. So
That's fair enough. I remember, and how about like the deck bans thing? Because prior our regular rule was just bring 2 decks and we just choose which one like to go first. But it has switched to 3 decks, and each player bends 1 deck from each side, and then the actual set begins. Do you think that's actually a really healthy system to go by, or do you like the previous just bring 2 decks and just go for it function?
I believe it's a really healthy system, as it encourages a lot of innovation, where you can try to bring a certain lineup to counter a certain like a specific deck or archetype, where you can ban your decks, your lineups hard counters, and then you will have a higher chance of winning that set because of your strategy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I agree with Ting on this one. Like, if nothing else, it brings in a very interesting strategy to it, where you can choose to ban what you believe to be bad matchup, or maybe snipe your opponent's like a comfort pick. Then you have an also easier time matchup sniping. In the 3.6 majors, right? Like, I was basically the only player in NA not playing MMEC, and like a huge part of my strategy to win was try to get the SC into MMEC matchup because I believe that was favorable. And like this system adds like a little bit more of that mind game into it, where like, yeah, which deck do I ban, which deck do I pick to give me the best chance at winning?
Juslin or Matt, any comments on that? How do you guys feel about the ban system?
Yeah, I think that the ban system is very nice. Yeah, it's a nice strategic depth to the game, because like instead of having to build every deck with keeping like every single deck in the game in mind, you can now like just ban a counter that might have invalidated your list before, which really opens up a lot of strategies, I think.
Mm-hmm.
So like for example here, like playing stall, you can just ban the Venet Talent Abuser. It's very nice.
Yes. Matt?
yeah, the one big thing about it was also like if your 2 decks struggled with a certain deck, like if Justin was saying about like a Bennett stall, or just like the Bennett talent would just like wipe out your SC or your other list, you could just purposely make 2 decks weak against that deck, and then just ban the Pyrokiching matchup, and then you can just like have an easier time with your flexibility. So it's a lot more like metagaming or just like strategy involved with your deck building, instead of just choosing the 2 best decks or most comfortable in general.
Right. And you definitely for sure, like ever since the MMEC deck has been banned, the major actually underwent through I'm not gonna say considerable improvements, because like, you know, it is a good thing and a bad thing at the same time, but matches have gotten a lot shorter. That was like when I actually casted for the Asia major, that thing went by fast. And I was like, man, were games this short? And it just put me in this position where I'm like, this is unbelievable. We could have actually had faster tournaments and like really just easier time just going through shit. And that really spoke volumes, and I enjoyed, and for sure I enjoyed that thing. But I don't think MMEC deck being banned now is no longer like ban being lifted is also thing to be discussed now. But I think, I think you guys are going to say for yourselves once we get to the next topic, which we will. I told you we're going to keep this very short, so we can talk a lot more in the 3.7.
Yeah.
With the new cards coming in, I believe, I like to believe that majority of you guys are also okay with just lifting the bans on MMEC now.
Oh, for sure. Well, a big part of what made MMEC strong was since Refraction Mermaiden skill did 3 damage. If you had 2 Hydra summons and Oz up, and you swap stall the rounds, so they ended turn on someone before you did, you can go onto Mermaiden and then do 10 damage, like, and just one-shot one of their characters. The fact that you can't do that anymore with it being 1 less damage, and also the 2 damage means a lot more in anchor situations where it's just Mermaiden against like one other carry. It's much harder to kill or secure another single target to kill with the last one.
Yeah, speaking of that, like, sorry, we're not moving on. We're just like a little bit of a quick mention is that for those who are not used to what's going on regarding the MMEC, in the 3.7 patch notes, we underwent through a Mirror Maiden adjustments where the elemental skill of Hydra damage decreased from 3 to 2. So we're also talking about, like, in regards to that as well as the other things. Everyone else also in agreement with the unbanning of the Mirror Maiden? Sorry, the MMEC?
Yeah, like, I don't really have an issue with it. Like, after the Mirror Maiden nerfs, the deck is a lot more manageable because it's a lot weaker in 1v1 situations. And also, there's like a deluge of a bunch of new cards, right? An issue before with the MMEC is because it was the most dominant deck and we couldn't find a counter. Now that there's new cards coming out, like, there might be some, even if it was still the most dominant deck, there's potential to still be something that might put a stop to it, right? So, I think both those reasons I'm fine with the ban.
Alright.
Yeah. As long as the deck is not like 60% usage and everyone's playing it, I think that it doesn't really deserve a ban, right?
Yeah,
It doesn't feel like tier 0 anymore, though the Oceanid plus a strong elemental applicator card still feels very strong for me.
You know, we talking about MMEC now, but if you remember that back in times with the Mago Kenki deck, Jesus. Didn't Mago Kenki have like a higher usage? Wasn't that even like it was bigger? I don't remember recalling that bigger.
Mago Kenki was like MMEC, but like as just one character.
That's fair enough.
Kenki was way more oppressive.
Yeah,
Kenki was way more
Yeah,
oppressive.
the Kenki was a little too much, you know. Anyways, so 3.6 aside, again, we have so much to talk with 3.7. I'm assuming from you guys, especially with how much content has been like literally being released. We're gonna go real quick on the patch notes to see, and actually just gain opinions from each and every one of you about how you feel about these nerfs or buffs. So 3.7 underwent 5 big things. We've already gone through Mirror Maiden adjustments because the MMEC is really strongly tied to it. But let's look at Ganyu. So Ganyu got a pretty big burst change where her burst cost increased from 2 energy to 3 energy, and her burst cryo damage is now dealing 2 damage, and the talent card will no longer get an additional 1 cryo damage effect after equipping this card. I remember in like several communities who at least somewhat play GITCG saying that this actually will gut Ganyu so hard that no one will ever use that. Do you guys agree with that take, or is that a little too exaggerated?
No, I absolutely agree. Like, people might not know this, like, if they don't interact with me on the server regularly, but I am a huge Ganyu SC fan. It's like my favorite deck.
Of course.
And what I found to be the main strength of that deck was the fact they were able to rush out the burst so fast and be able to exert pressure as early as turn 2. Right? That, like, helped the deck speed things up, and because the deck is extremely fragile, you don't really run that much healing. The fact that it now takes an extra, like, attack to charge up the burst is
huge.
Such a huge nerf to the tempo of the deck, especially because Send Off, like, which was already a huge stopping point of the deck, is now an even bigger deal.
Would you say
so much dice and so much time to get it that, like, I just don't think the deck is playable in its current form.
Damn. So you're saying she's just unplayable right now, just unviable overall, or is she? She can still save her or something.
I think Ganyu is unplayable in Superconduct, which, like, is my favorite version of playing Ganyu. But I think she still has potential in freeze decks, because she can still do 4 damage with Rain Swords, freeze an enemy, and do 3 piercing, which is still really a strong part of her kit. But I think in Superconduct specifically, Ganyu is no longer a viable unit.
Anyone else want to add on to this?
I actually think differently. I think the Raiden Shogun really helps to solve the 3 energy issue. which can make her still viable in Superconduct if you really want to play her that way. Especially since you can also charge another powerful AoE burst like Kasing Official with the Raiden. I think her freeze is actually not that playable now because, like, not only does your Xingqiu got nerfed, your Ganyu also got nerfed. You do so much less damage now, and you're even more vulnerable to a snipe from one of the meta decks. So I don't really feel like the prospects are that good for Ganyu freeze.
Well, wouldn't you say, like, I also want to add on to the little question because we're going to talk about Raiden when we get to that, but like, wouldn't taking Ganyu, Raiden with Ganyu mean she's going to be taken out of opportunity for other decks to have her? Wouldn't that be a little bit too high of a price to pay just to make Ganyu work?
Yeah, there's definitely an opportunity cost with regards to using Raiden with Ganyu. If for normal tournaments, like, it might not matter that much, but if you're going to the majors where if you bring like 3 decks, then maybe you should reconsider. But I tried Raiden Ganyu and it didn't feel too weak to me. I think that the amount of AoE damage you do can be quite oppressive, but you can be outhealed by certain strategies like Venet Talon.
I see. Anyone else want to add to the Ganyu situation?
She's probably still playable in freeze decks, but yeah.
Superconduct is just botched.
It's just because her main strength in Superconduct was her burst having high AoE damage and high applications, but now it's kind of hard to turbo it out.
Yeah.
Go
To
ahead.
be fair, I honestly think it was kind of like deserved because.
Oh my god, you monster!
I love
You
how
could
you guys
compare-
just say deserved.
That's my favorite deck you're talking about. Can't
And I'm
believe you
glad.
do this to me. I feel betrayed.
Well,
Hey,
if you
continue.
compare like a close like character, what is it? There's a Pyrolector who's 4 dice, 2 energy, and does this 3 damage, but has the same summon. The thing with that is, it's comparing a character who, whose reaction doesn't do more AoE damage and also doesn't have a Frostflake attached as a skill. So it just, before with Ganyu, she was just very easy to just like make your the opponent do at round 2 like 4 HP, and it wasn't very interactive, or like it was very hard for the opponent to do much if they couldn't snipe the Ganyu in time. And in regards to also the Frostflake or Undivided Heart nerf, there was also like some consideration with that. But other than that, yeah, the SE, I don't think we've been able to show a lot of results with it yet, since not a lot of people have tested the Raiden Ganyu Kaching deck, but I've seen it as well with Juslin testing it, and I think it has some promise, albeit it might be a little too inconsistent with some dice constructions.
So it's not that bad in my testing because your action cards are all really only needed to be used round 1. You just stack a lot of energy cards in your deck, and after round 1 you just don't use them at all. So since you can use your whole deck for tuning, it's really not that much of a problem. But, you know, is it
Oh my God.
optimal?
Oh,
like,
no.
I don't know.
Oh my god. I
Alright.
think regardless though, the Ganyu high roll is weaker, which is how the correct way to play the deck, the funnest way.
Okay, let's move on. Ito got some change, I guess. So Ito, when the Ushi summon effect has been changed, where before your active damage received damage, Arataki Ito gains superlative super strength, but now it's only when your character takes damage. Well, like I'm assuming that's every character takes damage. Arataki Ito gains superlative super
Yes.
strength, so that's a buff.
Yes, it's just it was a bug fix for
Oh, it was a
where
bug fix.
where if you get overloaded or force swapped off by like Sucrose or Gene,
Uh-huh.
you wouldn't get the stack.
Oh, but like even if it's a bug fix, like that, even if it's fixing that bug, I think as a result of that, he just got a little bit buffer, didn't it?
Yes, he gets a little bit buff from that. Yes.
But would that
Yeah.
change any like huge landscape about Ito's decks, or is that like just
No.
it's just quality
Not
of play
really,
change?
no.
It's not
Probably.
anything, but Shenhe Animal is a pretty popular deck at the moment, and that 50% of them run like Sucrose, so I think it's a pretty big change overall.
Mhm.
Here up against a 4-swap deck.
Fair
Mm.
enough.
I-
Let's move on to support cards, eh? Oh, or you had something else to say, Vidito?
So let's move send off.
Okay.
Oh, send off. Oh,
All right, let's move to send off. So send off. So there's one little detail that was excluded on this one, real quick. First of all, send off no longer destroys summons, but instead, the summons lose their turn usages by 2, and also the send off cost has been changed from 2 of any dice to 2 of the same dice. That's a huge nerf on send off.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
it wasn't even that well. It was actually important against MMEC, but it was still like had to go through some things. But did it deserve all that things, especially when summons were like pretty much overbearing time to time?
I think for the most part, send off is a niche tech option against summon reliant decks like Ganyu SC and like Kole Quicken. Like the main nerf, it doesn't change that many interactions, right? Like your Ganyu Burst, your Cullen Ambers, right? Those are still getting removed essentially.
Mm-hmm.
But it does have some interesting interactions with shield summons as well as Rodea Burst.
Mm-hmm.
So shield summons removing 2 usages, it makes it so they will no longer absorb damage, but they will still attack during end phase. So that would be a buff for things like Baron Bunny and George. George being the frog summon, we all call him George because it's funny.
Yeah, of course.
And it also has some impacts on Chaotic Entropy, which is Sucrose's burst summon, because that has 3 usages,
Mhm.
which will make it so it no longer like instantly removes 3-cost summons. It also has an interesting reaction with Rodea Burst, because it no longer removes a summon, she still gets the bonus +2 on her burst, which
Wait,
is
how does that
pretty
work?
interesting. So what it
Only
does
if
is
you- It's only if
Yeah.
you have no summons with 2 or less usages. So.
What the
yeah,
hell?
right.
Uh,
So basically what it
go ahead.
yeah. So basically what it do is like if the frog summon George is on field and you use send off, right? It reduces it to 0 instead of outright removing it. So she'll still get +2 damage.
Anyone else about send off? I'm just looking at send off adjustment, and honestly, as a person who enjoyed it, I'm just sad.
The send off nerf was slightly justified because 9 of the new characters have a summon in their kit.
I
So
see.
I don't think Mihoyo wanted send off to be that strong, because like imagine if you only spend 2 black dice to send off Ye's skill, which they might spend up to 6 electric dice for it. It would be a very field bad experience from the Ye player side.
Mhm.
So with such an advent of all these summon characters in the meta, the stapleness of send off would require it to be nerfed enough where it's good but not too good.
I see.
Well, yeah, for sure. The 2 usages thing, while it makes some summons like feel really awkward to like use against like Mona and Ushi are 2 summons that can't get send off as well, which is really like just feels bad sometimes to not. But one of the problems is that so they told us that the nerf was going to go to 2 usages on the page, but when we opened up 3.7, we realized that send off was also changed from some black dice to 2 white dice,
Yeah.
which makes it instead of a guaranteed usage of dice dump at the end of your turn, makes it so you have a chance to just like need to tune more cards or like not be able to use send off at all because you don't have the dice restraints for it.
Okay.
So
Do you think the dice cost change was warranted, or was just like unneeded and might be a bug kind of thing situation?
I personally think it was kind of unneeded since like honestly with send off being like arguably like usable with some of the current decks needed, it makes it like feel worse even more when you don't when you need to use it and like you don't have it.
Yeah, no, the thing about send off right now is you have to plan your turn around it. Whereas like before you see an opportunity, you can kind of just throw it out when you have nothing else to do. Sorry, like right now, like you need to think ahead more. Like, will my opponent summon, and do I need to allocate 2 dice to do this thing? And that can put restrictions on what you want to do.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I love send off so much. It's just to see that being gutted a little bit, or again hurts my heart a little bit. Well, let's move on from send off. I've shed enough tears. The lithic spear adjustments. This is just a bug fix, so there's really was lithic spear a good card to begin with, or is this like just like no one really
No.
cares about this?
No, it's pretty much unplayable.
So I can literally write down here just who dis.
Yeah,
it was not
basically.
only. Yeah.
There were just not enough Lyra characters to even consider it, and like the ones we did have just did not synergize together, so we never saw it.
That's fair enough. All right. Well, that's been patch notes of the thing. So now that patch notes are gone through, we're gonna have to go through the actual big meat, the huge meat of it all. I'm sure everyone has a lot of opinions to say, so let's just go with it in a very orderly fashion. It's not gonna be an orderly fashion, but we're gonna do it. But goddamn, we're gonna fucking try. There's been like what 8 new characters in the car on the game right now that just got added. So Raiden Shogun, Yae Miko, Venti, Xiao, Nahida, the System Mage, the Enjo, Electro Hypostasis. Never mind. There was 8 new characters. Sorry, Shenhe and Tartaglia. So 10 new characters. 10 new characters. I know there's a lot more support cards and equipment cards that's been added, but we're gonna get to that later. But let's go talk about characters right now.
13 new characters.
Yeah, and actually,
Like, monsters
13.
too.
Shit, right, Amber. Look, I'm bad at this. let me have my piece.
Amber.
All right. So I think most of the people, like the most people that like pretty much play GITCG on a very surface level, what do you guys think is the best character card and the worst character card that's been released, like on this patch alone? And I'm gonna go in order for this one. If you guys, if someone else has an argument against it, you guys are free to butt in, but you know, don't go too hard on it. You know what I'm saying? We're gonna start with Juslin. So Juslin, who do you think is the best card right now that's been released?
So I think for the new player, I think the best card is probably Raiden. Raiden's just so versatile. You can put her any of your 2 favorite units, and she'll probably be good. So I think she's really one of the best picks you can have for a new player. Both her elemental skill and elemental burst have a lot of value, and you really just can't go wrong playing Raiden. And for the worst character, it'll probably be Tartaglia.
Oh no.
His role's a bit weird right now. Like, you're looking for a strong burst, 3-cost burst. Like, you can deal with Rhodia or Oceanit. And if you're looking for a NA driver that deals hydro damage, there's Ayato, right? So I feel like Tartaglia is kind of in a weird spot in the meta where no deck really wants him that much. And from my experience testing him, he feels really quite weak.
Man, Childe really, Childe is supposed to be like the strongest character in the lore, like one of the stronger characters in lore wise, but apparently he's just getting really wrecked in the GITCG. I wonder how it feels about that one. I've heard complaints from people about Raiden Shogun. Surprisingly, there's a slight number of people actually complaining that Raiden Shogun might be just people overrating her too much because her elemental skill does not apply like Electro immediately, and that's just a little bit of a that just rules out. That just kind of cucks out of like early game eliminations.
Yeah, Raiden Shogun plays more like a mid-range character. I don't think that's bad. Like, Mirren EC was a mid-range deck. Yeah, Raiden's skill, you can usually get like 3 burst damage from it, as well as the 3 electro damage, and like over the course of the game, that adds up to like a lot of damage. I feel like that's part of why the meta feels like very fast right now.
Right.
Like, all these skills have so much damage, right? And her burst, like, the 4 electro can become awkward, to be honest, sometimes, but the Inazuma Resonance card, the Thunder and Eternity, really helps with that, because you can convert all your dice to electro and makes it a lot less awkward to hit the 4 dice requirement.
Yeah. So I feel like as I understood that, and I also feel like some of the people who complain about Raiden Shogun being a little too not having front loaded damage and just can be easily targeted down really fast. I think they're just looking really at the early game mostly. But Raiden Shogun, the little 2 energy on all your characters while dealing electro damage, I find that kind of ridiculous as well. Do you think she's overpowered and might need a nerf, or is she like pretty good as is?
Now that's hard to say because we are still early in the meta. Like, you look
Fair
at
enough.
the previous 2 tournaments, Raiden Shogun was not the 5-0 deck. Of course, that doesn't really mean a lot because it's just like a best of 1 Swiss where any deck can come out on top, really.
Mhm.
But yeah, Raiden looks strong, but I'm still not sure whether she deserves the overpowered tag,
Fair enough.
Right.
Thank you, Juslin. We're gonna move on to Matt Mario. So, unless you had something argument to say against Juslin here, or you guys?
Raiden has a clear weakness where she needs to be setting up, and she does setting up before she can get to a burst turn.
Mm-hmm.
And within those first round and like the beginning of second round, if you're aggressive enough deck, you can pressure the Raiden off or make them waste resources on Raiden where it might slow them down significantly.
I see. All right. Next up is Matt Mario. Okay. Who do you think is the best character so far in the new decks, in the new lineups?
It would be very easy to also say Raiden, since like you look at her and she opens up a lot of more avenues with decks. Like, people have been experimenting with like just you get her burst and then Ito can come in and start smacking you, and that is very hard for some people to deal with.
Mm-hmm.
Like, as like a newer player, you could just like you have some struggling punishing the like her weakness at the start, and then she has to inefficiently use her skill and burst on the same character, and it's hard for some decks to just like take advantage of that. So I would say that's Raiden or Shenhe. Like, Shenhe is also a character who like doesn't really have anything special besides she just does a lot of damage.
Mhm.
Her burst makes it so everyone takes more cryo and physical damage, which combined with her skill, which also makes her deal more cryo damage, which for some reason works with swirls. So double animal comps have been able to just swirl for 3 damage, which is funny because it's just like a undivided heart.
Damn.
How much damage it does with venti. But I would say honestly the worst character is also Childe. With he takes a lot of setup just to get like not very much of a good reward. Like, his skill only doing 2 damage, and then you have to start like attacking and doing charge attacks like to get your Riptide up. It doesn't really feel very good in a meta that's very fast right now, or just like in general. It's he just has like a weird mechanic with also his like stances. Like,
Right.
his burst is like the most useful part of him, but it's just hard to get like mileage out of it compared to other characters. You would want to pair him up with a character like Raiden, but just might be also opportunity cost like we discussed before.
Yeah. All right. Next up, Sumi. Do you guys have a difference in opinion on this now, or like what's your best best character or the worst character? Like, best first.
Like, I agree in Map Mario that Shenhe provides a lot of value for what she does. Right, for 3 dice, she provides essentially 5 damage worth of value, which is super good with the icy quills.
Mhm.
Like, once again, Shenhe 2 Animo is super strong because you're able to do Ganyu charge attacks on swirls, which is really strong. Another card that's like proven to be a really nice anchor is Xiao, right? His Bane of Evil, the Yaksha's Mask, gives him a lot of free stats and a lot of free damage.
Mhm.
Although, like, you usually want to bring him a little bit late because he's quite fragile. And like, I agree with the rest of the guys that Childe, unfortunately, is by far the weakest card in the new release. He has an interesting mechanic with his Riptide and whatnot, but like, yeah, no. he just doesn't have support cards that synergize with him very well, and his burst takes too much setup to really get use out of.
All right, Ting, are you also in agreement with these statements, or do you have a different idea of who's the best card?
Opinion.
Pardon?
I like Nahida the most.
You think Nahida's the strongest?
I may not think that Nahida is the strongest,
Okay.
but I think that she is top contender to be the best character. Her 5-cost skill is a delayed frostflake in a sense, with a higher damage on hit, and like she just does a lot of damage where she can pressure early, and her burst is really nice too if your deck can abuse a lot of reactions.
Yeah, no, I also agree with Ting on this one. Like, Nahida looks to be really strong in Dedro decks, and right now the strongest ones are Quicken, which deals a lot of reactions. So you're going to be triggering the Seeds of Skanda quite a lot, and the Shrine of Maya too is going to get huge value because like you just always want to get those aggravating fields up, which means you're triggering lots of reactions. So like I agree, Nahida has a lot of potential, but no one's quite been able to find the deck to use her yet.
Right. And Ting, you think do you also agree that like Childe is like still the worst one out here?
I would say that Enjo or Pyrolector is the worst one.
Oh, hold on a second. Well, we're gonna have to bring that up into the deck list real quick. Now, where? Okay, y'all can. Okay, first of all, let's listen. Let's listen to Ting here.
Okay.
Let's listen. All right. Let's see. Let's see what's going here.
Pyrolector has a plain 3 damage skill, and while you may have Ganyu burst in like pseudo Ganyu burst with Pyrolector's burst, he just doesn't feel like he does anything that another Pyro character can do. And if you're only using Pyrolector for resonance, then he's just a bad character. That's my opinion.
I just realized that Pyrolector actually has a rebirth, like a revive pill. Is that even worth it? Actually, like, wait, hold on a second. That's a 6 health? Is that actually a 6 health character?
Yeah, 6 health. But
6 health with rebirth,
like 9 HP essentially, right? But like the revive, taking away 1 HP. So technically, he can like eat excess damage,
True,
and then come back and do his stuff. I think it's an interesting mechanic, and his burst is super interesting with the piercing damage. But by grace of being Pyro, they don't care about piercing damage, so most of the time at least.
Okay, like Pyrolector usually has more HP than 9, but unless they're against Wolf Grace still, in which case it's like gets hard.
Oh yeah,
you know, you always take the extra damage. It's very.
Yeah, no, you're always in gravestoning range.
Yeah, thank God no one plays that though. But yeah, I think Lecter isn't that bad. I tried Oceanate Lecter. It felt decent. You know, you get Abyssal Summon, you get the Oceanate Summon and the Lecter Summon going. You can have quite a lot of damage. So that's why I don't think it's like the worst treatment centering character, but I can see where Ting's coming from.
So, can we surmise real quick before we move on to the other characters real quick that the biggest winners are Nahida and Raiden, and the biggest losers are is Enjo and Tartaglia here? Pretty much.
Basically.
Yeah, back that, yeah.
So for people who are just here to learn about like the meta, like you guys can like pretty much summarize that you might want to go for Raiden Shogun real quick as soon as you're able to, but Enjo and Tartaglia, you might not want to use your invite for those two. Those are just not worth it. Now considering the winner and the losers here, now I have an additional question to add on top of this. Let's look at the winner side first. Do you think just because they're like the best, the new really good characters for the 3.7, does that statement still apply for the rest of the game? Do you think they are like the foregoing the better, like actually like have huge presence of what was the meta prior to 3.7, or are they just staying in their own realm?
For sure. The big part of 3.7 was, on average, the power level of all the characters are stronger than what we have right now. Like that's why it's like a shocker for us and the tournaments that Shenhe was just more damage than like the average character could do, and why the meta right now feels very fast, and like the tournaments just went really quick for some things. So, yeah, Raiden and Shenhe, Nahida, like those decks are very quick and can overpower some of the decks that we used to have, which is why like the MMEC ban is also like a
Not unneeded now.
and unlifted. Yeah.
Actually, I want to ask on top of that one. You say the tournament has gone a lot faster. Does that mean the stall decks are no longer viable now, or are they still like have a place?
Depends on what kind of style you're talking about. Like,
yeah, like I
it's
think
just like double hydro, you can play that still. But like if you're going for pure stalling, like no damage at all, like yeah, I don't think you're gonna survive, to be honest. So though like I think a lot of the meta stall decks do a lot of damage now. Like you're playing like Raiden, Oceanid, Kokomi, you're playing like double hydro, Ember, Lecter, zhongli, whatever. All of those actually do a lot of damage. So you're not really stalling per se, you're just playing in a stallier fashion.
Because I say this because like you remember 3.5, 3.4, where we had a pretty upsurge of stall decks here and there, and they were holding up the games for a long time just to get a victory. So it's like, since you guys are arguing that might not be viable, or is actually someone here argue that stall decks are actually still viable or really good right now?
If
I mean,
Raiden, sorry.
no, you go first.
If the Raiden Ganyu deck gets more popularity, then stall decks will come to prevalence.
Yeah, no, it might have partially been due to matchup, because stall decks did really good into just constant piercing damage, because they were able to heal that up relatively consistently with all of their options, like Cathedral, Pizza, Hash Brown, Hydro Res, and other decks weren't really running. It's hard to say if stall decks are dead per se, because we haven't been seeing a lot of the previous meta stall decks in the tourneys, because everyone's experimenting with new cards, right? Like I don't think I saw like many Hydro Itos. I haven't saw Diona stalls, stuff like that. It's hard to say if they're dead yet, because we haven't seen them match up to the new decks.
I see. So hold on. Let me just gather my thoughts real quick here. And okay, now the worst parts. Let's go to the worst characters. Unless some of you guys want to add something to the winner sides real quick, or we can move on to the next question.
I think I just want to add, like, overall, I think the addition of the new cards is quite healthy for the meta, because they open up a lot of new possibilities for team building.
Okay, that's nice. So let's look at the losers. Like, the way you guys argue that, like, Enjo and tartaglia, or I'm just gonna call him Childe. We're more used to that. Now we're talking about in 3.7, but are they just as low value as the other characters we've already deemed as like really bad prior to 3.7? Like we're looking at like Beidou, or who else is really terrible here in the silent? It's been a while since I actually looked through these things. Magu Kenki also kind of like after the nerf being a little not being used barely anymore. Characters like that, like, are they just as competitive as they are, or are they actually straight up not like unviable?
Matt has been cooking Kenki decks. They look pretty nice.
Yeah, Matt has been cooking some Kenki sauce.
Honestly, with the new characters, there have been some older characters that got some resurgence, like Kenki with more monster synergy, or just like Animo. Like Xiao has also been like a very good character for Kenki, and honestly has more potential with older characters. But Childe is honestly a very... You could compare him to, like, I don't know. And the biggest comparison with Mirror Maiden at the time was Ayato. Ayato did use the skill to only do 2 damage to 3 damage. When pre-nerf Mirror Maiden did 3 damage to 4 damage with a refraction to kill. Childe has to go from skill and then do a charge attack, and then once they have Riptide, then he does 3 damage. Which, yeah, his burst is better, but really feels bad to compare. He does give Fatui resonance, which is like a good potential for his decks, though.
Mm.
Mm-hmm.
It's
I think
technically
the
like 4 damage if you have Riptide on. Like 3
Yeah.
Hydro, then 1 Piercing. But the
The
problem is
thing
that
is-
if they swap off, then you're just doing 2 Hydro again, which is just very not
Yeah.
good.
I think the
Nice.
main thing about Tartaglia is that like his main gimmick being the Riptide, it's a little bit hard to utilize right now. It's really hard to apply Riptide to someone and then like start smacking them with your melee stance.
Mhm.
Because like on top of using dice to do that, right? It's also what else could you have done, right? You do 1 piercing damage, but like, what if I swapped off to my Bennett and just hit E to do 5 damage on a vaporize?
Yeah, that's actually true. He's a little too redundant right now, huh? Well, yeah. Wouldn't you work with the Shaolin in that if that's the case, or is that a little too much of a setup to go for?
That's too much of a
think-
setup to go for.
No, it's too much setup. Because Shanli, you need to swap Guoba, and then after that, you have Guoba 2 turns. Like, what do? Normal attack is terrible dice economy, and if you don't have Liu Su, right, like you have to wait 2 turns, Guoba wear off, otherwise just bad value for you Pyronado.
It's fair enough. Now we're gonna go to a different theoretical, right? Like, let's say this is a player who just started the JTCG as well, again, like, but they only have 3 invites. Let's say they have 3 invites. If you're like on the position to tell them who to pick for the 3.7, who are your top 3 picks for your 3.7 characters right now? Let's start with Juslin.
Oh, like, are we talking about like a full deck they gonna build, or just like the 3 top characters?
We're not the full decks. We're gonna talk about decks later. We're gonna talk about decks after we talk about the new support cards. But like right now, the 3 characters they must absolutely get right now at that moment in this moment in time for 3.7.
Oh, that's hard to say. Okay, so Invocation. So I think it will be, the same spacers, right? Raiden, Shenhe, and for the last slot, I was thinking like they could go for either Venti.
You gotta pick. There's no this or that. You gotta choose one.
Okay, so probably Raiden, Shenhe. Hutao maybe?
Hutao.
Hutao.
That's not a pick that I imagined out of it. Like, okay, what's special about Hutao that you actually use her as a top 3 and not like Venti?
Okay, so Hutao is really nice because she has a lot of pyro application, right? With you use her with a character like Mona or Cicin Mage, you can deal like 10 damage round 1 while having the round stalling with Hutao's skill, which is pretty good. And her burst is healing, which is nice for new players. It gives them more survivability and more rounds to end the game.
Okay.
Yeah. So overall, that would be my picks: Raiden, Shenhe, and Hutao. And if for non-invitations, you're going for like monster characters. Definitely pick the Oceanid, Rodia of Lodge. She's still extremely strong even today. So, yeah.
Well, that's not a 0.7 character, so it doesn't really count. Either way, that's an interesting take. Hold on, Matt Mario, are you in line with this theory of logic? Or are you gonna pick a 3 characters here now?
So, I don't know. My bias is itching in.
Well, say your bias. It's your opinion. Like,
Yeah, no, I think, well, if you think of like if 3 characters and you said deck, it's like Shenhe, Xiao, Venti, like that was like an immediate like pick. And like, I mean, Shenhe fits in like good slots, like revives a lot of like double cryo decks, and it also fits in some double animo decks as well, and so it just has a lot of potential. And Venti, his skill just flat out gives you 2 free swaps. So that is very strong for like players to play around with on any deck they want to play. While he's been seeing a lot of potential with just like the 2 animo deck with Shenhe, he has a lot of potential in some other decks that we can be built. And Xiao fills a new role that's not a lot the animal characters couldn't fill, which they didn't have a really good burst single target, since Sucrose and Jean had 3 cost skills or 3 damage skills, but didn't really have a good burst to wipe out the enemy at the end game or just secure a carry kill. But now with Xiao, and he has a lot of potential with, especially with his talent in Gamblers. There's a lot of stuff you can do with that.
Okay, all right. So Shenhe, Xiao, and Venti from Map Mario. Next up, Sumi. Are you in agreement with whom, or you have an entirely different set?
I'm actually gonna go mix it up a little bit.
Oh.
If for my list, instead of going to what the objectively strongest characters, at least what we believe to be the objectively strongest now, I'm gonna go with characters that I think can open up some interesting deck building possibilities.
Okay.
So first up, we obviously have Raiden, right? This isn't
Wait,
much of a surprise.
You said let's try a different route, and then Raiden comes out frame 1. Okay, buddy. Let's go. Let's keep going. Let's keep going.
No. My second pick is, you're not gonna consider my second pick.
Okay.
So the reason I pick Raiden is because her energy acceleration mechanic is super unique. We don't have a character in the game yet that can do this other than her. So it can open some interesting possibilities where you spam burst and maybe even some funny exiles/emblem shenanigans where you can just do an infinite cycle of burst. I think it's a really fun character to mess around with because of that. Number 2, I am gonna have to go with Zhongli. I think his petrify mechanic is super cool.
Hang on.
As well as his
Pause real quick. Let me just find Zhongli. Zhongli is kind of in the background, and also I did not expect that.
All
right,
so
I got it. Go.
The reason I picked Zhongli is that he is the only character with a 2-turn Geo Summon. So you can constantly apply Crystallize off field, and as well as his 5-cost skill, it generates a big fat shield and also summons the Stone Stele. And the petrification could be super cool to just shut down a character for a turn with a press of the button. I think Zhongli is going to be pairing really well with double Geo Summon teams. You can go Zhongli with Ningguang and Raiden to get constant crystallized applications, and then charge their really strong burst with Raiden burst, which would be super cool. And then I think my third character, I'm deciding right now. Ooh, hard because
lost in thoughts, huh? Aren't you?
Lost in thought. I'm thinking of either Shenhe or Hutao.
Well, you gotta choose one right now.
Yeah, right, because Shenhe revives possibilities with Chongyun Xingqiu decks. They had an issue where after the Rainsword nerf, they no longer had the damage to reliably threaten lethals on opponents. But Hutao opens up really interesting possibilities with Blood Blossom.
So now it's a question: who's gonna be the final one to be invited to the party?
I think overall I'm gonna go with Shenhe. Her decks are easier to play for the most part, and she just gets a lot more value a lot easier compared to Hutao.
Yeah, different
Hutao
take.
needs too much thinking.
Different take, he said, and literally picked the two characters that other players chose. He said. What kind of variety?
Wasn't on anyone else's list,
okay,
so
look, Zhongli wasn't anyone else, but Matt Mario had an entirely different, unique set of characters. So I don't know about
but Matt
you.
Mario went second, so
Okay, fair enough.
Be more creative next time.
Ting.
Yeah, I mean, there's only so many characters to pick from.
Okay, Ting, you guys, you have a hot take that just kind of goes throws a monkey wrench on these choices, or are you around the similar? Let's see your opinions on that matter.
I'll go with Raiden, Hutao, and Nahida.
Okay. At least we have a different character down the line. We have a Nahida there. Man, Raiden really is the popular girl in school. Literally. Raiden literally being the popular girl in school. That's what she is.
I'll say these 3 characters have the most options when it comes to deck building, as they can fit in an extremely many in a variety of lists.
That's it?
They're very flexible units.
Okay, that's fair enough. Well, I actually haven't seen much of the decks that you guys are popping out here, but before I get to actual deck composition, we have to talk about the other big thing that we wanted for a long time and we finally got, which is the support cards. We've made an agreement in the previous talk about this this whole game, saying that the character cards, having new character cards is cool and all, but like what we need more desperately is like new support cards to create a variance of decks. Do you think that the support cards, the new event cards and support cards, actually did the job right, or did they literally just not change enough?
I think a lot of the cards are like, if nothing else, they're very interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Plunging Strike, I think, is a super neat card. It's like a weird hybrid between a fast swap and it's just like instantly normal.
Right.
It's like a generic Stiletto, and Stiletto is really strong in a few decks, so you're able to dodge freeze. So I think interesting concepts like this help spice up the game. But then you have Legend of Vanessa.
Where's the Legend of... Oh, there it is. What the hell?
Yeah, so like it's basically Legend of Vanessa acts as a woven for decks that are not running 2 of the same element. But the fact that it takes 3 of the same dice and gives you 4 random ones, it's a little bit rough. So
I find this. It feels like, you know, instead of like setting up for something, you're just. What it feels like to me. It's like you have a really well built Jenga board, right? Jenga tower, and Legend of Vanessa is literally just knocking that tower down. Like it's like, no, you don't get to have order here.
No, it's not knocking the tower down. It's throwing a brick at the tower, so you have 1 extra piece of it. And then it collapses. Okay. Any other opinions about the new event cards and support cards? Does it actually change deck like the biggest question is this, like, does it change the deck structure? Because we know behind the character cards they always have like the same cards, like the support cards are almost always the same. Will this change?
Yeah, so I really like the new faction resonance card. You know, Win and Freedom, Stone and Contract, Thunder and Infinity, and Fatui Conspiracy. Like, these cards really help to do what you mentioned, right? They help to incentivize you to change the characters in your list instead of just like riding the same old characters with just the new action card. I feel I like the faction resonance cards because they add a new strategic depth to deck building. Like, okay, I could run Raiden Barbara or I could run Raiden Kokomi and get the Thunder Infinity card, which can really help with my Raiden dice requirement. So yeah, and the biggest one is probably Fatui Conspiracy. That's a very powerful resonance card that incentivizes you to add 2 Fatui to your team, which usually you wouldn't do because Fatui tend to have poor synergy with each other, right?
Yeah.
They're all very anchor oriented. They're all very selfish, and Fatui Conspiracy helps to change that mindset. Apart from that, a lot of other new action cards can also be quite interesting. You take a look at Chinju Forest that incentivizes you to end your turn second, which changes the way you play the game entirely. Or Sumeru City, that's like the first good 2-cost infinite ramp card that we've gotten, right? Because previously there was stuff like Ellen and Dawn Winery. Those weren't great because they had a lot of restrictions, and Dawn Winery just straight like give you unaligned dice, which isn't as good. You also have cards like Amos Bow, that could be very interesting with characters like Ganyu or even like Childe. You spam burst on him, you know, that could be pretty fun.
Except, you know, child.
Yeah. And cards like Tandoori Road Chicken entirely change the way you play the game against decks that include them, because they change the damage breakpoint. Like previously, Power Resonance deck deal like 8 damage at most with Power Resonance plus skill. Now with Tandoori, they can do 10 damage with a skill, which can be pretty scary.
That actually sounds really scary indeed. Anyone else wants to also feed into this thing?
Yeah, well, the biggest thing I liked about the cards were there was a lot of more niche cards that you would want to pick and choose with your cards. Like, for instance, Paimon was just such a very like good card to just put in any of your deck. While like it didn't really fit the style of like wanting to play aggro in some decks, you would still want it just because how good it was. That changes with some of the cards. Like I think I was experimenting with Rana for a bit, which gives you a dice. Rana, the other,
Oh, sorry, my
the
bad.
companion. Yeah. That one gives you a dice. So when you play it, or just when you use a skill. So if you use that dice when you play it, it's effectively a 1 cost. So that opens up some new decks, because while you would want Rana, there are some decks that would also want Summer City, which cheats out another dice, but with different constructions. So there's a lot more deck building to be explored with that, and on top of like what Justin's saying, like the factions. The factions also with like Leeway Res and Inazuma Resonance are very good cards to be looked at, since they can be compared to really good dice fixing or just like dice dumping as well, since I like using stoning contracts for cards that are turns when I don't have a lot of good dice, and just being able to use those for next turn. And Win and Freedom is also a very scary card in the end game when everyone is low HP, and you could potentially lose when you hit them. You kill their Ganyu, and then they come back and that disperse your with Kaching. But now you can just double snipe, and that could be like a scary thing to think in the back of your head.
Yeah.
One thing to know is that with Tandoras that Justin mentioned is that there's a lot more like damage in your hand that you have to like be very respectful of, which is kind of getting to the point of worrying with how much stuff you have to worry from their hands, since not only did we have like from previous patches we're worrying about like Adeptus or I haven't lost yet, or just a lot of like Wovens just in general. Now you have to, on top with Tandoris and more cards, you can potentially lose to other cards that you didn't play around. So that's just something to keep in mind.
There is a new mechanic that also got introduced, the revive with the Tevat Friday. Do you guys, are any of these people, are you guys using this thing? Or is
No.
it just not worth it?
Absolutely not. The thing about like fried egg, it costs the equivalent of a skill to use, and just the cost is not it. Right? Like you revive a character for 1 HP, but like you can do 3 damage to the opponent, like reactions as well. And if you like revive a character during the end phase or something right before the end phase, and they just have summons, you get piercing damage. It's like, oh, I just wasted 3 dice. And most of the time, it's a lot more valuable to just smack them with a skill or just ramp with something like Labin, Paimon, Stoning Contract, etc., etc.
I see. I also see the little bit of a. I'm a little confused about why Butter Crab exists when Lotus Crisp Flower exists.
Yeah.
That is also kind of a really weird thing. Is Butter Crab is also like, is that even useful? Or that's really situational, isn't it?
Butter crab, it's really hard to get value off it. Like,
Yeah.
it's
gotta be
your opponent can
penetration
just
damage.
ram, or they can just like, yeah, like they just play a lot of action cards and they just pass, and suddenly you're playing like 2 dice to reduce 2 damage, which is
Yeah.
awful, by the way.
Yeah.
So
like,
yeah,
what the hell?
it's quite niche, quite niche.
Mhm.
It's good against Shenhe and Emo, I guess.
I like
Go
all
ahead.
of the new cards as they're all pretty strong, but then they almost none of them are auto include into every deck, where each deck will only want certain cards from the new set, and I find that that's quite nice that we don't have even more auto includes for every deck.
Except for Treasure Seeking Sealy.
That one's unfair. That
But
one's a good card.
which actually, I'm going to the next topic. What if you like? What are the best support cards? Pretty much,
Without a doubt, it's Treasure Seeking Sealy. It essentially replaced Wharf because it's just cheaper.
Wait, okay, support cards, Treasure Seeking Sealy. So after a character uses a skill, this card will accumulate 1 treasure clue, and 3 treasure clues. Discard, and
So-
draw 3 cards. Man.
Yeah, so how Treasure Seeking Sealy works is you place it down for 1 dice, the same cost as Strategize, right? 1 dice. And then after you use 3 skills, this can be like normal, your elemental skill, your burst, Ganyu charge shot, whatever it is, you do it 3 times, it gives you 3 cards. So it's like a delayed Strategize that draws you a little bit more. It's slower than Wharf, it's slower than Chang, but it costs less, and it draws you more.
It's like a future investment.
Essentially, yeah. I think Warp still has its place in some decks, especially Tubby engine decks, because it's a location, right? Tubby will make it free, and it does draw you more overall than Sealy, but the fact that Sealy costs less is huge.
Any other support cards that other people in this room have that also wants to recommend for the people?
I already talked about how the faction resonance cards are good, like Thunder Eternity. So have a little bit of a hot take here. I think Tenacity of the Militaire is a very good card. Like, you wouldn't play in every deck, but for stolier decks that can take advantage of the effect for multiple rounds, it's extremely good. Like, first of all, like, it gives you a line dice that can proc on the same round. So if you can proc it on the same round, it's basically 2 cost, the same as General Ancient Helm. And then from then on, it generates you 1 dice every turn, and it's a line dice. It's a really strong effect. Like, I think that if you're playing double Hydro or something, you definitely put it in your deck list.
I can't. Well, can you get the name of it?
Equipment cards.
Equipment cards. Oh, you're talking about.
Yeah, it's the artifact.
That
one.
That's a card that I have not seen.
Yeah, they released a few new artifacts.
I see.
I think the funniest one is the Forbidden Adeptus.
Let me get to that real quick.
The Emblem of Severed Fate. I call it the Forbidden Adeptus.
Oh, okay. Emblem of Severed Fate, this one?
Yes.
The Emblem of Severed Fate plus chill. It's the way to play him, alright? Trust me.
It's the Forbidden Adeptus.
Jesus, that is a Forbidden Adeptus. Jesus Christ. Alright, any other cards that that is like pretty much pog the hell out that no one really actually I've been coaching people, shocker, because I don't play this game as much as you guys do. I've actually been coaching people how to play decks here and there, and opponent with their winning five games in a row thing. I've actually seen a lot of people use Sangonomiya Shrine. Is that worth it, or is this just like a little bit of an illusion? They thinking that is too good?
I think it's a good card. Like, it's 2 dice to heal 6. That's very good value. But the problem is that sometimes it can be a little slow for the meta. Like, if games are ending on like round 3, then like, alright, it's kind of hard to get value out of Sangonomiya Shrine, right? You're wondering like, okay, maybe I should just use a skill instead of just playing this action card. So I think it will definitely be a very good card as the meta slows down. But right now, I think still a good card, but I don't know if I would play it in a lot of decks.
Yeah, it's hard to find players.
Yeah, Sangonomiya Shrine heals more than any location card we currently have in the game. Right, it's extremely dice efficient with its heals. It's like the same as Lotus, 1 for 3, but it just takes a bit.
Right.
And it's the fact that it's spread across your entire team is bad against aggro decks who generally deal a lot of direct damage.
I've also heard a few people saying that Tenshukaku actually might be good because it saves people from what we call the dice of cringe.
So, when we saw Tenshukaku like in the preview, we all assumed that Omnis did not. Well, some of us assumed that Omnis did not count towards like the dice count or just the difference. Yeah. Which made it like probably like the probability of proccing it very low, and it was like close to unplayable then. But then we tested it out, and Omnis do count, which makes it so it has like around a 90% chance of proccing with your Omnis, and it goes even higher when you have cards with light.
So like each Omni dice counts for an entirely different element that you don't even have.
Yes, you can have an entire board of 8 Omnis and it would still create one.
Jesus Christ. But it's just one Omni element die. Oh, actually, now that I think about it, no, even one dice counts, huh?
Yeah, no, 1 dice is pretty huge. Going from 8 to 9 means you can skill 3 times on the same character.
Right. Well, that's pretty interesting.
Okay, my personal opinion is that I rather play City right now, but as the meta gets lower, I could see Tenshukaku being played. It says like synergies with cards that kill Omni dice, like Ivon, and it actually can synergize with itself. because like if you put a Paimon or Tenshikaku before your Tenshikaku, then your Tenshikaku will count the Omni dice that you get from those effects, which
Ooh.
will make it proc much more consistently. So yeah, overall, I think that if the meta gets slower, then you might see play. But right now, I prefer Sumericity. If you're looking for a 2-cost RAM card.
Okay. A little curiosity question from me. Does a plunging strike a lot? You guys have been saying plunging strike actually has a little bit of value. So when it's switching to a different character, it's basically the hairpin from Kiching. Would this also trigger things like Ayaka's passive Senho, and actually apply cryo damage, or does it not count?
It should, because it counts as a swap. It should create
Yeah,
it.
should work.
Or
There
like
should be no reason for not to.
Or like characters who had like a normal attack altering stacks like Yoimiya's E. Like after doing Yoimiya's E and you switch out and switch it back in with a plunging strike, does that also, trigger the pyro damage at that point?
Yeah, it worked
there
with
should be no
Xiao. I
reason
didn't see why it
it
wouldn't
wouldn't
work.
trigger.
Okay, that's
The only thing I'm not sure it wouldn't work on would be like clear Tainari charge attack. I haven't tested that.
looks like you guys have to work it. But the 3 dice cost is kind of like putting me in a little bit of an edge. So it's like it's also same color. So like I don't know how you guys work out with the plunging strike, but like if you guys say it has some value, then I guess it has some value.
Honestly,
I think.
what is it?
Yeah, you can.
As someone who's been like testing out Xiao a lot, and like I think be like an easy fit with his plunging strike as well, since he already has the plunging strike, so why not use plunging strike? The problem is like it's a very niche case of when you want to like use a normal attack and quick swap and like all that time. If the fact it's like you can see it as it being a fast swap, like a swap reduction, and then it also costs him 1 less dice than normal attack. So what that means is you want that specific scenario of all those cards at once, like, and you want to use plunging strike. It's only going to be only valuable if you don't have those other cards and you are in that situation, which makes it feel very niche in the situations you're holding that card right now. And like it also being 3 white dice is very awkward to play sometimes, especially with like we know with like Paimon being very hard to play sometimes. So
like I agree on
kinda
Matt
hard.
with this one. Like right now it's a little bit too niche, but if we do have a resurgence of freeze decks, I think it could be an interesting tech option to avoid the freeze.
That's fair.
Like a frozen character you don't care about plunging strike, do some damage, call it a day.
I also like there's like I like how like most of the support cards right now are like just like a lesser variant of what we existing here. And I'm honestly like even though they might not give the value they have right now, I think I love that they're giving you a little bit more variant of what kind of cost and what kind of effect are going down. And then there is Kid Kujirai. So Kid Kujirai to me caught my eye even before and now again. Do you think cards like where you like it has like properties like Kid Kujirai, which literally just sends the card and occupy your opponent's opponent's board? Would that do you think that is an interesting take, that you would be happy to have in the game, or is that a little too toxic?
So the thing about Kid Kujirai is that I'm pretty sure for his meta use, that mechanic doesn't even matter at all, because you just play him the round before you're gonna win the game, and the opponent will never get your Omni dice, and because you're just gonna win, right? The game will be over. So I mean, technically you can use it against Tabi decks. They have 4 full location cards. They can't replace anything, so you just permanently get 1 extra Omni dice. That's strong. But it's a bit niche, so the main meta use is mainly just playing it before your opponent can do anything. It's also quite bad if your opponent has three cards specifically, because then you can just play something to replace the Kid Kujirai. Then now they just get the Omni for free and you don't get anything because the Kid Kujirai can't come back to you.
Fair enough. Anyone else wants to add on to a little bit of a different support cards before we actually finally get to decks? No? We're good?
Yeah.
One thing to
Alright.
note is
go ahead.
what is it? Oh yeah, no, sorry. It's just one. Is that there's like a lot of equipment that are specialized towards specific units.
Mm-hmm.
Like Tenacity of Millith, it like is kind of good just for like characters that just want to stall out and just be very tanky and have some dice along the way. But all the Archons and for some reason Ganyu got specific like cards that like are specifically for themselves, or like just like synergize really well with them, are supposed to.
Yeah, Amos Bow.
Amos Bow,
Lightning, Vortex Vanquisher.
the Dolls of the
Teapot.
Floating Dreams.
Yeah, the Teapot.
They are really weird, but for specifically, there's one that's like the best out of them, or like that has like the best usage right now, which is probably Vortex Vanquisher. That makes Zhongli like incredibly like scary to take on once he gets set up with some shielding and tenacity and vortex. Like once he has this setup, it is very hard like for people to do it, since while he doesn't really do a lot of damage with his skills itself, this pushes him to you have +1 damage and then +2 damage, and then you also get another shield from him, and then he innately gives himself shields and the tenacity shields. So that is just like a scary thing to deal with. Like, and something to note is that VV and tenacity can make some characters, specifically Zhongli, very tanky to deal with.
I see.
Well,
all right. Oh, you have something to say?
Oh yeah, VV is just the Vortex Vanquisher.
Okay. And let's get to the very last one of the topic, and then we're gonna just start to chill or take some Q&A session with the chat here that might have some questions here and there. Decks. What are the new rising decks in 3.7? Now, this is not just all the 3.7 characters. Like, we're also including like other decks that been good before, but now we're gonna see new decks arising for 3.7.
Well, I think I just wanna. Do you mind if I do a plug?
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, plug time. I always take the opportunity to plug. So, like decks aren't just for PvP. Obviously, like if you want to farm cards, you need PvE decks, right? Like strong PvE decks to smash the competition. Well, if you're just getting to GITCG and haven't unlocked all the new cards yet, on the GITCG YouTube channel, we have posted a PvE guide. We have like 3 really strong decks that we believe will help you easily farm the PvE content, and that can also transition to PvP as well. Thought to throw a plug in there in case anyone's interested.
Yeah,
but yes.
There you go.
I'm shameless like that.
Yeah, of course you are so shameless. Anyways, plugging aside, what's the new look, I wasn't here on the first tournament, so lay it on me. What are the decks that you like really good down the line right now? Like right now, what are the decks that are you think are hot shit? These are like the big W winning decks you think that people should or should not, for your own sake of sanity, try out for the new decks.
I think before moving on to the new meta contenders, like I should probably rehash that the old decks, the old archetypes are still really good. Cleave Mana Agent, Cleave Ape, still a really strong deck, like nice single target damage to nuke opponents. Quicken is still really nice. It's still able to do really nice consistent damage. Hydra Ito, I like to call it Cow Sentence. It's still a really strong deck where you have like a lot of stall early game where you have to waste resources and then come in with Ito Hyper Carry to sweep the rest of the opponents. But like those decks are still strong, but the standout competitor for 3.7 as the new decks, it's gotta be Shenhe Double Animo. At least for me.
And that is the Shenhe
it's
Venti.
Shenhe Xiao Venti, yes.
Xiao.
So this deck is extremely strong because, like, with Shenhe Icicles as well as Burst, you're able to do 3 damage swirls, which is essentially Ganyu charge attack, on top of the direct damage from the Animo skill used to swirl in the first place. And Venti is like a really good utility engine. After casting an E, the next 2 swaps you do are free, so it's like a free changing shifts, which is super nice. And then Xiao is an excellent sweeper. His burst gives him a lot of free damage, as well as free swaps off.
I see. Any other decks from other people that you really, really, really want to recommend to other people, or don't recommend for your own sake of sanity?
There's Pyro Kaching.
The Pirate.
It's still really strong.
So what is the Pirate Kaching? What's the member that consists of?
It's Kaching, Klee, and Bennett, because you'll be able to play Tindori and Mondstadt Resonance, and with just so much damage stacking, you can easily sweep teams.
I see.
There's also like Kinky Hypostasis Xiao. That's a pretty
Okay.
One.
Wait, hold on a second. Is that
Yeah.
actually? Are you saying that unironically good, or are you just like cooking your own shit right now, bro?
He's cooking.
Okay.
I don't know
All right,
about
okay.
Hypostasis, but Matt Mario has the sauce.
Everyone in this room, are we gonna let Matt Mario cook here real quick?
Yeah, Matt Mario has
All
the
right, let him
sauce.
cook. All right, so okay,
Cook,
so
man.
give me the deck name again. Who's the members in there? What do you name this deck? What bequeath the name on this deck?
Well, this is not the variant I've been focusing on, so I would just not give it a real name. I would just call it Abyssal Xiao, because
Abyssal Xiao.
you want to have what's it called? You have double monsters, and then you have Electro to swirl with Tenki, so you can do Cryo Summon, Animo Summon.
What's the members in this deck? You're
Oh
cooking?
yeah. Sorry, Xiao, Hypostasis, and then Kenki.
The Electro Hypostasis, right?
Yeah.
Aces and
Rock
Kinky.
paper scissors one.
Okay. There we go. You have the podium. Explain. Cook for us.
So, the thing with Xiao is that he has like a burst that wants you to like be active on him a lot, but he doesn't have like a lot of survivability compared to like Ito, since Crystallize gives you a shield, and you don't have double Hydra to also heal you back. But essentially, you just want to like sit around with Kenki and Hypo, and that allows you to just whittle them away, especially with Superconduct and some of the monsters or Hilichurls that you can spawn with Abyssal Summons could be very helpful. And once everyone is low, you can safely go onto Xiao, and combined with his talent and Gamblers, talent makes it so when you're on burst, you get 2 skills that cost 2 dice, which is very synergistic with Gamblers, because Gamblers gives you back 2 dice when you defeat an opponent. So that can lead to really easy OTKs, because what you can also do is just use burst again to refresh your like 2 dice reductions, and then that can really lead to easy endgame cleanups. So I personally don't want to rely on Hypostasis, like getting 5 dice or Abyssal Summons, so I like putting Kaching, because she also gives you leeway resonance with Xiao, so I like using...
So sometimes you're saying replace Hypostasis with Kaching as an alternative option, right?
Yeah, that's the one I've been using a lot, and honestly, I've found a lot of success against Shenhe Animo and the Raiden decks that are common against certain characters. Yeah.
I did not expect this today. I woke up today at like 5 a.m. and then just wake up to like literally just woke up from this. Damn. That's kind of crazy. But you're gonna have to come up with an actual name for this deck, because Abyssal Xiao ain't got no sauce for such a name, you know.
Kinky
SC Kenki. It's just SC Kenki.
Okay. All right. Well. Okay. Next up, any other decks? I'm just good. This is a free podium, so you guys can come up anytime you want, and I'll just mark you up for take the podium to cook. This is your kitchen. This is the kitchen. You guys can cook here as much as you want.
So I just want to talk about Yai real quick. So I'm looking at the tournament deck list for the 357 patch, and I feel like people aren't really using Yai right. Well, at least in my opinion, right? So the two deck lists that I'm seeing is Yai Quicken and Yai Mirror Maiden EC.
Wait, hold
the
on a
two
second. My Yai Mirror Maiden EC. Okay, what are you saying? These are the decks you want to suggest, or you?
No, I'm saying that these decks are like
badge.
less good, you know.
Okay, all right, so I'm not gonna write it down here on the
So
list.
I'm gonna say that Yai with Mirror Maiden is less good because Yai typically wants to elemental skill twice. So the two most common lines for Yai deck is you play a summon and then you swap the Yai, you elemental skill, and then you quick knit. Yeah, that's right, quick knit. And you get the extra electro application. Either that or you summon onto another character, then you play rand cards like Liven and Paimon, and then on round 2, you double Yai elemental skill. The reason you want to double Yai elemental skill is because of the extra electro application that you get. You don't want the elemental skill on round 1 and then 2 because that wastes an electro application, which isn't as great. And that's why she's bad at Mirror Maiden, because if you're gonna double electro elemental skill, you're gonna have a lot less hydro summons to use with Mirror Maiden. So it's less good, right? There's not as much synergy. So my recommendation is the Jade Plume Terrashroom, alright? The chicken. Okay, with
so
chicken...
all right. Give me the deck. Give me the deck. What do you? Okay, what's the name?
Chicken, alright? It's Yai summons. Alright. That's my recommendation. The idea is that Terrashroom provides Abyssal Summon. You can Abyssal Summons into double Electro Summon round 1, which is pretty good. And Terrashroom also provides the deck with a way to proc the Electro more without relying on Hydro Summons like Mirror Maiden does. Because the thing with Yai Oceanate decks is that you're gonna have a lot more Electro application than you do Hydro application, just by the nature of how Yai skill works.
Okay.
And yeah, chicken can really help to make use of that, on top of providing an amazing single target measure, to be honest. And Quicken and Bloom's actually pretty good. So yeah, that's gonna be my promotion. Yai Oceanate Chicken. Alright. Play over the Yai Quicken or Yai Mirror Maiden EC. Alright, that's my take.
Jesus Christ, I'm just gonna call it fried chicken.
That is it. No, it's more like chicken broth because you get to go.
This is chicken broth. Okay, here we go. Chicken broth team. This is a name. We are cooking.
And the Yai is just like the electric stove.
Okay. Any other people who wants to take the podium with their hot, freshly cooked decks?
Either double Hydro Zhongli with like Mona, Zhongli, and Barbara or Kokomi.
Barbara, Zhongli, and Barbara can be interchangeable with Kokomi?
Yeah.
Okay.
Zhongli is just a very good stall tool where you can just grind the game out, and in a 1v1 situation, you have your burst, and you just can't lose. And with the addition of Vortex Vanquisher and Tenacity of the Millilith, he's very comparable to other hypercarries like Noel or Ningguang.
Okay. You know what I just realized that you guys haven't said at all? You know what's funny is that you guys are being saying that Raiden Shogun and Nahida are really great units, and then you just didn't introduce any decks relating to both of them.
I was getting
Raiden's such a cold take, you know, like everyone already knows Raiden is good.
I was gonna introduce the Raiden deck that I've been seeing a lot.
Okay, go ahead.
I don't know how good it is though. I haven't played it a lot myself.
Well, you guys recommended these two, so you might as well, like, you guys need to have a deck at least, so people actually see why they're good.
So, like, the Raiden deck I've been messing around with the most is Raiden Ningguang Zhongli. The reason I think this is strong is Raiden Summon, Zhongli Pillar, right? Instantly you have Crystallized End Phase, which is really nice. It deals 3 damage as well, same as a skill, so pretty good value. On top of that, if you charge up Raiden Burst, you like essentially have a free Petrify at any point by turn 2 or 3. And then Ningguang also has like a really nice nuke burst, and her Jade Screen makes her pretty good at stalling as well. Right, and you add tenacity and all that good stuff, Geo-Res, the deck can stall out a game and just let Zhongli Hypercarry do its thing.
Is Geo actually better in TCG than actual in-game? Damn.
Surprisingly, yes. And the other deck I was going to recommend, this is Kevin Z's sauce. He's another member of the TC's
Yeah,
staff.
yes, I know of him.
I thought I'd leak it because we've seen it in the EU Weekly. So the way it's hutao, not futao. Hutao, Kraus Citizen Mage, and Power Agent. This deck is a little harder to use. It uses Hutao's Blood Blossom in conjunction with Mirror Maiden's Crow Summons to do massive damage end phase, and it adds so much cheese cards to
Fatui Agent, right?
rival FTKs. Yeah, Fatui Agent.
Okay.
I think it's a super interesting concept for a deck. Whether it's going to be one of the top meta contenders is yet to be seen.
Okay. Any Nahida decks? Guys, we have one Raiden deck and 0 Nahida decks. Come on.
Nahida, Yay, Miko, and Tainari.
Okay.
Okay, someone said okay here. So what? Okay, are we gonna do compatibility of these deck, or what? Okay, what's the cookie? What's the cooking here?
Nahida just does a lot of damage and for quicken, and it's just a great aggro tool.
But why Yai and Tainari? Like, why not Fischl or something like that either?
I have found that Fischl can waste applications if they swap, if they manage their auras correctly, where if you ramp after skilling on Fischl, they could just stay on the character and ramp back as well. Whereas Yai can backload the electro application, so your Nahida can actually get the quicken procs off or for a longer period of time.
But a question to all of you guys. I remember asking before, like, you guys got any good Raiden / Nahida teams? Someone said you can switch out Mirror Maiden and put Raiden in from your classic MMEC team, and it will work fine. Do you guys agree with that take or not?
Okay.
So you run Oceanid, Fischl, and Raiden instead of Mirror Maiden, right?
Yes.
I personally disagree with that take.
Mm-hmm.
I think the reason that MMEC was so strong is because the Fischl Oceanid core let you do massive damage and piercing. Then Mirror Maiden had really nice anchoring capabilities, being able to match the damage of a lot of characters in the game.
Right.
The threat of an 8 damage Adeptus Burst. Raiden doesn't let you do that. Right? She does at most 2 damage, and her burst is harder to get than Maiden because it's 4-2 instead of 3-2. And she doesn't even do as much damage, and you don't even want the extra summon because Rodea Fischl already fills it up. And the Electro Resonance in that deck is less useful than Hydro Res because it heals you, right? You don't need the energy acceleration. The deck plays very slow. It's all about grinding down your opponent. The energy acceleration isn't that useful in the deck, and you also have tools like Calcs and Star Signs as well to help you out.
Mm-hmm. I've also seen across the PvP, I've seen so many people lining up Raiden and Sarah together, and then the other character is either Calais or Nahida. What do you guys take on that one?
Okay. As someone who really wants to make Sarah work, that is not the way I think. Honestly, since Raiden's biggest point, the selling point, is that you want to get a very good burst out very early. Sarah's burst is not very good. I don't know how to cut it. Yeah.
So
I think
Go ahead.
I think one of my issues with Raiden as a whole is that her summon lasts 3 turns with no initial application. If you don't run Liu, you don't want a normal attack, and if you don't have any other energy acceleration, it's a bit hard to get her burst off, which is my main gripe with her.
I see.
Okay, for the Mirror Maiden EC with Raiden deck that we're talking about just now. So my take on it is, you run Oceanid with Raiden. I think that's a good duo. And for the last slot, you run Barbara or you run Kokomi. That's my deck. Oceanid, Raiden with Barbara or Kokomi.
Jesus.
The reason that I think it's good is because Barbara and Kokomi verse are usually very awkward to get off, right? Even though they are fairly strong. And Raiden can really help you solve those issues. And on top of that, Barbara and Kokomi allow you to get a second verse off on Raiden, thanks to their healing. And so yeah, overall can actually be quite oppressive because of the EP damage from Oceanid and Raiden, and the potential snipe for hyper carries in Oceanid and Raiden both.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. All right. Last minute decks for you to like self promote yourselves in. All right. Any last minute decks you guys cooked up? Then thing might be good.
This is a deck from a few patches ago, but like there's new life with Shenhe. Chongyun, Shenhe, Xingqiu. Or you can also replace Chongyun with Aika, but I think I prefer Chongyun for the most part. This deck was like really strong before, where like you hit Chongyun Aika instead, because with Frostfield Rain Swords, you're able to freeze your opponent, do 5 damage, right, and then 2 normal attacks. Your character is gone, and they also can't move. So it's really strong because of that. But after Rain Sword nerf, you now only do 4 damage, and your breakpoints are less consistent. But with Shenhe, you can bring back the 5 damage normals with Rain Swords. It's really nice to have.
Okay. Anyone
really
else?
Strong damage and utility. Yeah.
So for the Raiden Double Geo, I just want to mention that Ito is a very good pick. Like for example, Raiden, Ito, Ningguang. Basically the idea is that you get your Ito to 2 superlative super strength stack with 3 energy with Raiden, and you use the Ningguang to whittle them down. And then once your opponent's low, you just gamblers Ito them, and you can really be very explosive. And finish off opponents. You might think that the 2 superlative super strength stacks are like quite low, but it's actually enough for most games to finish off the opponent. Yeah.
Someone as Tyranitar actually just came up right now and say, "Is Pyrolector so bad he's unplayable?" I think the answer was yes from last time we did.
I
think he
wouldn't
is.
say like.
No, he's not unplayable. You can play like
I
Ocean
don't-
Elector. That's pretty good. Like, yeah.
I don't think he's unplayable, but so far we haven't found decks that like can utilize his kit well. Right, 'cause most of the time we prefer another unit.
Do you think you'll cook it fast enough before the 3.7 major, or it's just not really just yet?
I don't know.
Or are you guys caring enough to actually try to make a Pyrolector deck?
I think the main issue with Pyrolector is that he's Pyro, and like he plays too slow to be in a Pyro deck.
Fair enough.
The Pyro doesn't really have great synergy with AoE. Amber can suffer from the same problem, but her skill is good, so it can carry her.
All right. Anything else? Last one. Just one more deck.
I got none.
Any Nahida?
Man, you have something?
Hold
You have
on.
anything?
Well, other
Okay.
than anything that like might be just like unplayable, I can't think of anything right now. only thing I can think of is refining the Xiao deck right now, instead of just making him an
I
anchor.
actually do have a question, because after all the characters you guys picked, like, to pull out, I realized Venti only gets one use here. Like, is Venti only just structured for double animo, or is he has something else other than that?
Oh, I think he is used in Rainbow decks, where his extra dice can be useful. Like yesterday, I don't know, Mona, Sarah, Venti, he's playing something like that. I think can be pretty good there.
Okay.
I think Venti provides a lot of value with this skill, like with 2 damage and also 2 free swaps, which is like essentially 4 dice worth of value. He could be good, but it's just he's an animo unit and also doesn't force swap, so it could be a little bit weird using him in other decks.
Okay. I think we are slowly nearing the end of this thing, so I would like to have one little funny topic before we send it off to the end of the podcast. What other concepts or cards do you guys want to see more of towards the next patches after 3.7? Let's start with the bottom up this time, because poor Juslin has been taking the first turn the whole time. So Ting.
Pardon, could you repeat your question one more time, please?
So what concept or new cards do you want to see from GITCG like after 3.7?
I would like to see maybe more coordinated attacks.
Coordinated attacks. So you want to see more combinations of new decks, like that is actually like new form of like combinations. I see.
Yeah, a different style of deck.
Okay.
Where
Asumi?
I I think I agree with Ting. Like, I want non-hydro coordinated attacks. Because right now, characters like Ayato and Childe are extremely middling because they just don't have anyone that can synergize with them. So I think that could help out characters like that. Other than that,
You know, I just while you think, there was a little comment made by Kojo right here, and he says he want to see a stall used with buttercrab and egg. I don't know how to feel about that one.
I think other than that, I want to see mechanics that make rainbow decks more viable. Because right now, like, the 2 elements is just so good because you have unconditional free dice as well as elemental resonance, which has huge game-changing effects. Like, having something for rainbow decks would make Hyper Bloom a lot more viable than it currently is.
I really do. Indeed, I agree with that. I actually do want to see a card. So because we already have so many resonance cards, I want to see a resonant cards where the condition is to have 3 different elements, just to just to add a little bit more spice in life. And right now there actually is a rainbow resonance in the main game where if all your characters have 4 different elements, I'm pretty sure you just get extra defense.
Yeah, and maybe like rainbow resonance is buttercrab. Yeah.
Like rainbow resonance has like a built-in buttercrab or like a built-in like shield for like every 1 turn kind of situation.
I think right now I'm just finding it that rainbow decks are just not nearly as competitive as 2 element decks, which is a little bit feels bad for rainbow players.
Purple Bomber says, "Let Yoimiya out of jail."
Yeah, no, we're not buffing the burst.
No.
That's not happening.
Yoimiya stays in jail, never gets out. Sumi, anything you thought of while you were going through that?
I think not really. I think it's more coordinated attacks and like a buff to rainbow elements.
Okay, just a little something for before Matt and Mario and Juslin say their answers, or to give them more time to think. I have actually a hot take, or like a take of all times, should I say, that might make this game a little bit more funnier in a way. I actually dead ass want to see support cards that are more than 4 dice cost. So like I want to see like 5 dice cost or 6 dice cost that has like the power to actually change the tide like greatly. To a point where I actually thought of a card, maybe if they had like an event card like that is like 5 or 6 dice costing, where you can actually trigger all your summons upon playing it, not waiting for the end of the turn kind of situation.
I think it's interesting.
Yeah, because summons are always happens at the end of like supports and buildings are always at the end of the turn. So why not have a card that you can just trigger them at the moment of time, just to actually
I think the main issue though with a 5 or 6 cost card is that you can only do like 1 or 2 skills. No, it's like you can do 1, maybe 2 skills if you have some ramp, right? So it heavily restricts what you can do. So the effects need to be worth it. But they also can't be so strong that it just outclasses everything else in the game.
Right. But like just to make like a high cost, so you actually have that little. So decks that uses these summons have like a chance to bring back, on a situation. And of course, that's just like one idea. But like, I feel like a higher dice cost cards that just is more than 3 or 4 dice would be really fun to have, and I don't think it would actually disrupt the game pace itself, because it's just so high costing dice. You have to actually think, is this turnaround card worth it to have for like your Hail Mary strategy, or is it just like not worth it? Just give that little balance. Matt, Mario, thought of something?
With more diversity of cards choices with like regional resonance, I do want, it's probably gonna be a long project, but I do want to see like a second talent for each character.
Ooh.
Like that would be a very cool thing to happen, since there's a lot of talents that are like, okay, do I really want to spend another dice to get another 1 more HP on rain swords? No. Or there's like Bennett talent, which like actually if you have it, you actually just completely smoke them sometimes. And I wish to see there's like more talent variety, and like in general, just some characters just have like some really overtuned ones that could have like just another secondary one, while some characters that could feel a little left out have some talents.
I actually really
Jeez.
like that one. That was actually a good idea. As Kojo Creations just said, I want more multi-element characters. Andrea, Scar, Mexu, Senora, Boss Mode Child, etc.
They should also revert the Kenki nerf as well.
Oh my.
Alright.
You know, like we have this in your card, we can just like make it a vase of ashes. Like you chuck it at your opponents, they get blinded for a bit. Who knows?
Oh no. Oh no. Alright,
If you throw it
last...
hard enough, they might get a concussion.
Oh, Jesus Christ, stop. Stop. Juslin, lastly, anything you want to say, add to this thing?
I think my point's pretty similar to the rest of them. Like, you know, right now we have like a lot of aggro, some control and mid-range. But combo decks are like pretty missing, right, from the equation. We will most have like what, Ito decks, maybe Bennett decks if you rev a lot, I don't know. But yeah, so I really want a lot more combo decks in the meta. We can help to curb a deck from like Mirror Maiden EC from being meta dominant again. And I also want to see more normal attack support, really. Like,
Oh, yeah.
you know, ever since Ayamiya and Xingqiu got nerfed, the normal attack cards hasn't been seeing a lot of love, right? Like Minty Meat Rose, Legend of Vanessa, all of these cards aren't really, they really have a strong use case right now because you just don't really want to spam normal attacks usually. Like, the biggest normal attack spammers in the meta right now is like Ito, and hutao. Ito can't use Minty Meat Rose at all, but Legend of Vanessa is okay on him. And hutao, she has way too much elemental application, so you also don't really want to spam auto attacks on her as much unless they support. So yeah, I just really want to see more normal attack support, maybe like coordinated attack like Ting was saying, though there you also have to be like tuned down so it's not too OP like Ayamiya was. So yeah.
I see. Well, seems like we're nearing the end of this podcast. Any of you guys want to have some last words here regarding 3.7 for like any little words for the people who are just entering the game itself?
I just want to say that with the new release, a bunch of new cards added. Like GITCG has a bunch of new possibilities, just kind of dumped in all at once. If you want to get into the game, now'd be a great time as the meta is shaking up. You can be the next one to cook the meta deck.
I can make the decks Mirror Maiden EC.
Also, actually, Kojo, if you actually have something to say, you can jump in real quick about like the tournaments. Are there any interesting things happening for tournaments in 3.7, or is that something you guys are still keeping it behind the bars?
You know, I feel sure people are keeping it behind bars, you know. They don't want to share their sauce with other people. They want to keep it to themselves.
Yeah, I need more people to stop bringing send off and stop being.
No,
That'd be very
send off is good, and I will keep bringing it every time just to screw with you.
I think send off is still good, like slower decks. I don't know about faster decks. I'm pretty sure you just rather run an aggressive action card.
Okay. I guess that's just about it. Well, this has been a wonderful talk. Definitely 3.7 made things a lot more interesting for sure. And I hope to see, well, we're not going to get another patch like this for another long time, but I hope they're going to still keep on adding more stuff to the GITCG. So a lot of people in 3.7 are saying 3.7 become boring, but to us, to the people who actually do enjoy GITCG, we are eating a mad good.
We are indeed.
And I would like to thank you guys again. So Juslin, Matt, Sumi, and Ting, thank you so much for showing up here for the podcast. This time we changed the time frame a little bit, so it's more suited for the North American and like European people. So I hope you enjoyed your time here. And we will have another podcast happening when the 3.8 begins and see how that changes things too. And as usual, exclamation mark GITCG. These people are all from the GITCG server. If they have their own Twitch, they have their own Discord, and they have their own Twitter. So if you really want to learn more about GITC than just what we talked about on the podcast, be sure to join in, because they have a lot of content to actually deliver for you guys to actually get focused in. And I have a feeling that this server is going to be this server is already like a pinnacle encyclopedia for all the GITCG needs. I'm fairly certain even official tournaments that held in Genshin Impact were all just taken away by like the GITCG people here. So
yeah, we might have dumped 3 or 4 of our players into the Astral Carnival.
Oh yeah, dude.
Top 8 was all of us.
So yeah, like if you guys really want to see like the true bright light of GITCG, please join the GITCG Discord server and all the other entertainment out there. I swear it's really good. And sometimes KQM will be hosting some of the tournaments for GITCGs as well, just to gather a little bit of more interest here and there. I'm also been casting some time to time as well. Sumi here is also a really good caster as well. He has a goddamn TI-84 Texas Instrument calculator in his goddamn head. All right.
Math is hard though. Sometimes I get it wrong.
No, of course. All right. That's it for everyone. Thank you so much for watching. See your goodbyes on your guys. Come on, say goodbye. Say your goodbyes.
Bye bye.
All right, well, I can see you guys next time. Thanks for having us, Eggs.
Yeah. All right, and that will be the end of the podcast.